Yesterday, we get 15 minutes of Jermaine Burton building more on this idea as we're midway through the summer that he is maturing, he's looking for consistency, he's building better habits, which I guess just include actually showing up. Uh,
You'll have that.
and all of these things. I have been pretty open that I'm just not there yet with it. Um, I want to know where you're at with how long does this go for you until you start buying, believing? Are you there? Are you willing to embrace this idea of, okay, the Jermaine Burton thing is now happening? Where do you stand as we get what happened yesterday with sort of 15 minutes of Jermaine Burton sounding like he's saying and doing the right things?
So I am hopeful yet skeptical. And he's got to start somewhere. And as stupid as it might sound, it starts with showing up. So it had. If you weren't going to give him a chance, then you cut him. They're giving him a chance. Him taking advantage of that chance had to start with the basics. Come to work. Come to work on time and show up to work to work. So, great. That's a very good first step. There are many along the way. Um, Ask me on cutdown day because to me that's going to be blatantly obvious. If he's a member of the Cincinnati Bengals when their final roster is put together, then you're going to go, okay, he checked every box this offseason because you and I have talked about this, Paul. Like I feel like he's operating with a very short leash. I feel like all for number 9 to go, man, like let's go. So if we get to cut down day, then I'm going to be interested. All right, like how are they going to use him? What's his behavior going to be like during the season? But I will take that as he has done everything that you could conceivably ask him to do and more over the course of the offseason. And then for me, it's kind of clean slate, blank slate. Let's go. Let's see if you can take advantage of your athletic skills and also stay out of trouble and do all the things that's required of you as a professional. But I want to give him and a lot of younger athletes the benefit of the doubt because there's a long list of people, and I'm probably on it, who when they were that age didn't get it and needed for someone to kick him in the ass or needed for something to happen before they went, okay, I'm a big boy now. I've got to act like one. And maybe that doesn't happen, and we all either laugh at Jermaine Burton or wonder what's going to happen with him with no football, or the light bulb comes on and he figures it out and he's a productive NFL player. And I don't know how you root against that. So I took what I heard yesterday and what I've, just gathered from reading the dispatches from practice that he is taking the very early first steps toward earning a place on this football team, which is he's going to have to earn by doing more than just performing well on the field and having, breakout performances in the preseason because that was barely good enough last year. So I am hopeful, but I am skeptical because he has earned my skepticism at the same time. I root for neat success stories. I root for people to get it. I root for young people who have a hard time early to figure it out later on. And maybe that happens. And if it does, I think that's going to be a really cool story. And athletically, I think he can add to an already pretty loaded offense.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, when you break trust, it's so hard to rebuild it, and
Sure.
especially when you break it over and over again. And then even once it's rebuilt, can it ever be 100% again? I mean, are you always in the back of your mind waiting for that next misstep? And I kind of wrote about it today, where the reason he's here is because the Bengals are saving face more than they're granting
Sure.
grace.
Sure.
And it does feel like one more mistake, and they'll be like, okay, we tried, and he goes. Does he get that? I mean, when you've messed up multiple times and you keep getting those extra chances, do you think that's always going to be the way? Has anybody gotten through to him to say that it's not going to be the way? One more running afoul of whatever it is going to be the end. You do want to root for him. He's not a jerk. He's a guy that he can be personable and he can be, fun to talk to when he is in that lighter headspace where he's just enjoying things. And that's the thing. Last year, those mistakes, they start compounding. And I think I'm not saying he's an addict, but anybody that's dealt with addiction or anything like that, it's easy to see that stuff kind of spiral where, it happens once, it happens again, and then you're so focused on the mistakes you made in the past, you just keep making more of them. So hopefully he talked about how good of a headspace he's in. That the interview did go really long yesterday, and a lot of the questions were about football and proving to his teammates and what went wrong last year. And I stuck around to the end because I wanted to ask him more about just being a human being and where he's at now. And I think that's the interesting part is he said he is in a really good headspace right now. And Paul, you saw it when we were there draft weekend, he was there constantly. He was there, and the players don't have to be there at that time. And I asked him about that too, and he said he just wanted to get in a routine. He wanted to start that routine and build it and carry it through the offseason into the season, get his body used to doing that kind of stuff every single day. It sounds like he's doing all the right things, but that the back of your head, that doubt, that skepticism that you mentioned, Mo, it's always going to be there. And I don't know if it'll ever go away. He could he could be one of our breakout guys this year. And then, you start worrying about, okay, now he's got success. Mm-hmm. Now does he start messing up again? I don't know that it's ever going to go away.
It's probably not. I mean, anybody who's ever broken your trust, you forgive, but you don't forget, I guess. Mm-hmm. So clearly there's an element of forgiveness here where it's like, all right, last year was a wreck. You disappointed a lot of people. You let a lot of people down, but for whatever reason, you have this chance and we want you to make the most of it, but we haven't forgotten the reasons why you fell out of favor with us. And so that, to me, that's why I'm hopeful, but skeptical. I'm hopeful, he's gotten through this part of the off season. Now what happens over the 5 or 6 weeks where minicamp ends and training camp starts? What happens during training camp when he really gets into the grind of the season and he has no leash whatsoever? He has no, wiggle room whatsoever. He can't nod off in one meeting. He can't show up 2 minutes late. He can't run the wrong route in a practice, much less a preseason game. Like he literally has to be perfect. And so that's kind of why I'm skeptical. He's being asked to live up to a standard that could not be more far removed from anything that he is shown before. So I'm hopeful, and I certainly will acknowledge that it had to start somewhere. By all accounts, it has started this offseason. Let's see where we are in cutdown day. If he is on the team, that's going to tell me he's done everything perfectly, and then we go from there. And then you're right. Like, what happens if he has a couple of big games? What happens if the trappings of, I don't want to say stardom, but of being a prominent player on hopefully a good NFL team start to take hold? Like what we don't know, but they are giving him a chance. And early on, it feels like he is taking advantage of it. I hope it continues. And I don't know how anybody doesn't hope that it continues while at the same time remaining skeptical that it will. If I were to wager an amount of money that mattered to me on, is Jermaine Burton going to prove to be a valuable member of the Cincinnati Bengals this year, my money is on no. But I hope at some point something happens over the course of the summer or over the course of the early portion of the season that I change my mind on that. That had to start somewhere. It appears that it has.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm my money would still be on no right now, because one thing, the headspace thing is a really great point, Jay. Is that I feel like we've seen Germaine in a good headspace before. Mm-hmm. I mean, I will never forget, how great he was right after he was drafted. With all of us during a couple of the first sessions. And then it was just the total opposite out of nowhere a week or two later. He's like a totally different person, right? And I just feel like I hope he's getting the help on how to stay in a good headspace. Mm-hmm. So many of us need that. And obviously I think that's something that he needs to be working through too, is I hope he's finding a way how he can be, like he said, consistent in that good headspace. That, and the other part of this is why you have Joe Burrow. Okay. Mm-hmm. Like, and he is the ultimate trust quarterback. And we have seen many come and go because of the trust factor, the inability to create it, or the ability of a guy with lesser skills to manufacture it with Joe. And so he is not going to be tolerant of the of the trust factor becoming an issue again with Jermaine Burton this year. I can tell you that much, because he has too much on the line.
And I think a lot of it too is, last year he came in really light after the draft and it was happy. And then you see it. He was at Alabama and he was a guy. He was a real dude on offense. And then you got to deal with being a role guy and not getting much of a chance. And then you do start questioning your own ability and your future and all that. And I think this year, maybe he learns that he settles into that role where he knows that he's going to be number 3, number 4, number 5, whatever it is. And I think there's a real opportunity. He's going to need some work at. He's going to need some practice, but he really flashed as a return guy. And if he can keep his head in a good space and really work on that role, I think that's open, because I talked about earlier with Charlie Jones with the injury issues, Isaiah Williams. There's a real shot that Jermaine could carve out a role and be an important part of this team just as a return guy. So just keeping him involved and keeping him seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, I think is going to be really big for keeping him in the right frame of mind all through the year.
That's how he's active. I mean,
yeah,
I'm just saying, like,
probably.
We just talked about earlier. We went through 4, 5 of the top. Like, that's the battle is for the 5th and 6th receiver. Okay, like Gesicki's a receiver. Yosvash has ascended. I mean, these guys are above Germaine by a mile. They really like Isaiah Williams. Like Charlie Jones is still here. These names you just mentioned. I mean, that's what he needs to do, and then start focusing on being good, and you can use him in sub packages or in situationally in the offense. I just, to me, that's the thing, is that it's not like there's some direct path that doesn't involve injury for him to becoming any form of a regular part of the offense right now.